After 2 weeks of traveling from Berlin to Copenhagen on my own, it was finally time for me to travel from Copenhagen to Malmö, Sweden for my very first workaway. For those of you who do not know what a workaway is, it is a website that allows travelers to volunteer for hosts around the world in exchange for food and accommodation and cultural exchange, stuff like that. There are many websites like that, like Worldpackers and Woofing, but Workaway was the first one I came across, so that's the one I went with. Regardless, generally all of them would have you volunteer between 4 to 5 hours a day, 5 times in a week, and in exchange you get food and accommodation for that week. Work, however, can vary greatly, and it depends on the kind of host that you find. And with that said, brings me to my next point, which is what kind of host did I look for and what kind of host you can possibly consider if you want to try it yourself. For context, I'm taking an indefinite break from my studies in order to travel more and see more of the world, and also to try out some of my passions, which include making and creating videos. For me, there was always 3 things that I looked out for when it came to searching for a workaway. 1 was cost, 2 was cultural exchange, and 3 was always an avenue for me to pursue video making. In terms of cost, I always looked for a host that provided both food and accommodation. Not all hosts provide both of those, and it's important that if you're seeing a listing on Workaway that you check that out, because there are some hosts that would do less work hours. For example, they might only do 3 hours instead of 5 hours a day, and in exchange they will provide less for you. So maybe they won't provide dinner, maybe they won't provide lunch or something like that. So for me, I was always looking for one that covered everything. So in terms of cultural exchange, I always looked for a workaway that was generally smaller in scale. There are other workaways that onboard many volunteers, and they will work together with other volunteers at a farm or a bar or hostel. And generally that was not what I was looking for. I was looking for an experience in which I can interact with the host specifically. Because generally I choose hosts that I'm interested in, whether they are small business owners, yoga teachers, creators, artists, and I think those are what inspire me, and I really want to hear from them instead. I'm not saying one is better than the other, but for me, I was always looking for an experience where I can sort of live the host's life in a way, right? Really assimilate into their lifestyle and experience life from where they are from. And I feel like in a smaller scale setting, when I can interact better with the host, that was what I would get, and that's more valuable to me. Also, I know that I generally socialize better with less people because I just like to get to know people on a deeper level, and I feel like with less people in the house or less people in the workaway experience, I can get to know people better rather than just at like a surface level, right? Finally, in terms of creating an avenue for me to pursue video making, I didn't necessarily need the host to list video making as like one of the job scopes, right? Initially, I was looking for workaways that had like video editor or photography or filmmaker as part of their job scope. But what I realized is in my second workaway, I had experience with working with a ceramic artist. And you know, just being in the presence of another creator and another artist is inspiration for me in itself. I realized that when I was there, just hearing her story and working with her, shooting some videos for her and stuff like that, that to me was very inspirational and very valuable. Of course, this is entirely my preferences and what I look for in a workaway. But if you're listening to this, I hope you realize that volunteering and workaways isn't just about farming or working in hostels, right? If there's something out there that interests you and you want to give it a shot, I feel like you can definitely find something out there for you. For me, when I stay and work with these other artists and creators, I find that it's a really great experience and it inspires me greatly as a creator myself. So if you're interested in doing workaway for yourself, I just have one warning, and that is about the work hours. So there are many different types of workaways, as I said before, and some of them would have you work very early in the morning, and some of them will have you work very late in the night. And it is important, if you are looking at the listing and you are considering and it doesn't say the work hours and the time, that you clarify these kind of details and hash out these kind of details with the host before you get to the place. it's important to set your terms and your boundaries so that you don't have any false expectations of the volunteering job, and also that the host doesn't have any false expectations of you. So if you feel like you're overworked or you're being abused by the host in any way, you have better grounds to stand up for yourself and voice out if you've already set these terms, rather than feeling kind of awkward and just kind of letting it slide, right? So I heard from this other volunteer that when she was working in a farm, she was kind of overworked because there was a period of time where there wasn't enough volunteers at the farm, and you can't just not feed the animals for a day. So if she's alone, she had to do all the work, which meant she had to do more than 5 hours every single day and take care of the animals every single day of the week, right? So it's important that you state your criteria and your terms and make sure everything is talked about before you get to the volunteer, so that if stuff like this happen, you can kind of speak out and say, hey, I can't do these kind of work hours, but if we do it for this week, maybe I can take more days off next week or something like that. With that being said, you should also have a bit of flexibility when it comes to it, right? So, for example, in my first workaway, I stayed in the house of a yoga teacher, right? I stayed together with her family, and as such, on the weekends, she would clean her house, and of course, when I'm staying with her, and I contribute to that as well. And to me, that's fair enough, right? You stay in the place, even though I've already worked 5 days, Monday to Friday. I find it's completely fair that if I'm staying and really want to experience, her lifestyle and her family, then I'd be part of it. And if they clean on Sundays, I clean on Sundays as well. And I think that's completely fair. So, just look at the situation, be open about it, but also, if you feel like you're being mistreated, make sure you voice out. And if things don't go well, then, well, you can always just leave, honestly, because there's no bond to the place in any way. So with all that being said, how was my first workaway? So my first workaway, I was essentially a video editor for this yoga teacher. So what I did was I created advertisements for her business. So the daily for me would usually look like waking up at around 8 or 9 in the morning. Then I go down, make coffee, and I learn to brew with a mocha pot, which is kind of interesting. And usually we just hang around the kitchen, chill, chat with the other volunteers, stuff like that. Then once we're all done with that, we join the yoga teacher for her morning practice. So usually in the morning, she would do yoga for 1 or 2 hours, and we just kind of join her and she teaches us, which is great. And then from there, we do breakfast. We have breakfast in the morning together. Then after that, we work together for about 5 hours, 6 hours-ish, with lunch in between. So generally between 12 to 6 p.m. And then after that, from there, we have dinner together, and it depends. Some days we have dinner together, some days the host heads out because the host would go to the nearby town. Some days she has dance classes, or maybe her son, who is a musician, will go to the music studio. So it depends. And for me, I decided during my stay there that I wanted to pick up Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu again. And it was a bad decision because my first lesson I went, immediately someone breaks my hand. So I was not doing Jiu-Jitsu for the rest of the trip. I was not doing any exercise for the rest of the trip, which is unfortunate. But it's fine, after 2 weeks it got better, and my hand's all fine now. From there, the evenings would usually be on my own. I do my own thing, whether I watch Netflix or I edit some videos. But as the stay got longer, I got to know the host better, got to know the son better, and we started to do some movie nights. I joined the son to play some board games with his friends. Yeah, it was really chill. On the weekends, I usually just stay in the house. I didn't really go out too much. There were some days where I went out, but generally I'd stay in, and Hassan convinced me to start reading Berserk. And that's something that I really wanted to do for a long time, but I just didn't have the right headspace to do it. So I finally started reading Berserk at the base, and it was so nice to just chill on the weekends, looking out into the vast countryside field, which is in the background, and just enjoy reading Berserk. Of course, when I was there, I didn't just stay around the house the whole time. I went out, visited some stuff as well, with the other volunteer and the host's son, and sometimes his friend as well. We go to some museums and exhibits. Like the first time I went with a volunteer to the Modern Museum in Malmö, Sweden. That was nice. It was a nice experience, a nice change of pace, especially because at that point I've only really been staying in the house the whole time. And I didn't mention this earlier, but basically the house is in the countryside, right? So it's out in the open fields, as you can see, it's something like that. But that's not the house itself, it's just one of the houses along the area. So you can see it's wide open fields, and it's a nice change of pace to go back to the city and see a modern museum. And while we're there, Banksy exhibit also opened up. So me, the host's son, and his friend, as well as another volunteer, we all went to the exhibit together, and it was nice. It was a nice experience, but maybe Banksy isn't quite my thing. I remember when there were days out that was nice, the sun was out, we head out to the beach. Sometimes we do a yoga shoot together with the yoga teacher and some of her students when we're out at the beach as well. And some days I just kind of wandered the countryside area a bit, looked at the houses there, just took in everything that was there as well. Shit. So I tried to make oat milk today, and well, I didn't close the blender properly. So So how was my first workaway experience for me? To be honest, it was absolutely perfect. It was fantastic. It was everything I wanted and more. And of course, going in, I had my reservations and hesitations about the whole volunteer thing and workaway thing. But once I got there, got to know the host, got to know the volunteers, everything was so much better. All those reservations were just gone. Luckily for me, the host's son was about my age, and we shared so much things in common. I got really close to him during my stay there, and by extension, I met a lot of his friends who were also my age, right? And yeah, actually just a few days ago, I was just on a call with him and playing some board games with him online. So yeah, it was great. It was great to get to know someone that's my age and really get close to someone as well. And when I was there also, we had many movie nights, and I remember one of the movie nights we watched this show called I Want to Eat Your Pancreas. It's an anime movie, and to be honest, it was just alright. But there was this one scene in particular that stood out to me specifically. In the scene, well, spoilers, the main character is dying of pancreatic cancers, and she's basically asked by her love interest, why isn't she trying to strike off the bucket list, you know? They were just hanging out at a library, doing school, nothing special, you know? Why wasn't she trying to go out there, see the world, do everything she want to do, see everything she want to see? She only has that much time left to live. But she replies that she doesn't want to change anything. She questions back, you know, if the life she was living before and the goals that she had before were suddenly no longer valid in the face of death. And to be honest, that scene really struck a chord with me, you know. It really gave me a lot of appreciation for the life that I was living, and it made me realize that I was privileged enough to already be living the life that I want. So on that note, let me bring to you my final warning to all those who want to try volunteering and workaways for yourself. If you stick to this point in the video, thank you for listening to me ramble about pancreas cancer show and workaway experience and everything. If you like what you see here, please subscribe, and you know, I'll be doing more videos like this, sharing my experiences traveling and volunteering around Norway and Asia for the rest of the year. So yeah, my last warning to all those who want an experience like this is that when the time comes for you to leave, it is really sad. You know, I felt like I forged such a strong bond with the family over there. You know, I got really close to all of them, and you know, I didn't expect that. You know, because they're all the way across the world, and Sweden, they have a completely different lifestyle from me. But yeah, when you live with them, you wake up with them, you cook with them, you eat with them, you do everything with them. You literally live with them. You know, you get close to them, and you know, when the time comes to you for you to put it all behind, it's pretty hard. I remember during the last days, I woke up and realized that I had a dream, that I woke up in Singapore, and that the whole workaway experience was a dream in itself. You know, when the time came for me to leave, I was so close to the family, but unlike the family that I had back at home, I knew not when I would ever see them again.
Oh my god!
My life's great.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, this is just build up for that.
No, it is.
It's actually
cool. That's the only. That's a boomer.